November 5th, 1974, Memphis Coliseum. In front of 18,000 cheering fans, a sudden cry shattered the euphoria. "Help me." The voice belonged to a young woman in the front row, trembling and desperate. What happened next stunned the crowd, froze security, and revealed a side of Elvis Presley that no spotlight could capture pure humanity. The evening air outside the Memphis Coliseum smelled faintly of autumn rain and popcorn, a tangible reminder of the thousands gathered inside for the 8 p.m. show. Velvet curtains rose slowly, revealing a stage bathed in gold and blue light, the kind of glow that made rhinestones sparkle like tiny stars. Fans surged forward in waves, scarves waving, cameras clicking, some chanting names while others whispered rumors of what songs might open the set. In the front rows, a solitary figure stood out, Mary Lou Hawkins, 22, her hands tightly clasped, lips trembling as if the music itself might break her. James Burton strummed the first notes on his guitar. Ronnie Tutt's drums followed with precise intensity, and stagehand Tommy Reeves adjusted mics with quiet efficiency, invisible yet vital. The crowd's roar built with each chord, a collective heartbeat that pushed against the boundaries of the Coliseum. The first songs teased familiar melodies, but even amid the euphoria, tension lingered like smoke. Mary Lou's anxious gaze caught in the camera's frame, unnoticed by most, but significant. The scent of cheap cologne mingled with the faint tang of sweat, the sounds of cheering and shuffling feet overlapping with the soft creak of stage equipment. Fans leaned in, craning their necks for a glimpse of the man whose name had become synonymous with legend. The excitement was palpable, yet the camera lens lingered on Mary Lou's hands, white-knuckled against the barrier, her eyes scanning the stage as if seeking an answer before any note was struck. Have you ever sensed someone's despair even in a crowded room? Could you ignore it, or would it reach you against your will? The stage lights danced across faces, some familiar, some strangers united in anticipation. Every flashbulb and every cheer collided, forming a wall of sound that both thrilled and drowned the smaller, quieter dramas at the front. And then, above the crescendo, a voice cracked through, raw, desperate, unforgettable. The arena held its breath for a fraction of a second, the surge of collective expectation meeting a sudden, human interruption that no setlist had prepared anyone to hear. And then, that cry of desperation would force a decision nobody in Memphis, not even Elvis himself, could have predicted. "Help me." The voice tore through the opening chords of suspicious minds, slicing the roar of 18,000 fans like a knife through velvet. The crowd faltered mid-cheer, a collective intake of breath replacing the rhythm of clapping hands. Mary Lou Hawkins, young and trembling, held a folded note in her shaking hands, her eyes glistening with fear. Security froze, caught between instinct and protocol, unsure whether to surge forward or wait. Cameras on the sidelines pivoted, capturing the sudden shift. Faces turned toward the front, whispers rippling like water through the arena. Elvis paused, his signature smile faltering under the sudden gravity. The band hesitated, guitar strings lingering in the tense air, drum beats suspended. The lights glimmered off his rhinestones as he scanned the crowd, squinting against the glare of the arena lights, trying to discern the cause. Some fans frowned, annoyed at the disruption, murmuring about spoiled setlists, while others craned to see what had stolen his focus. The energy split, anticipation clashing with concern, the familiar concert rhythm interrupted by human urgency. Mary Lou's sobs were audible now, raw and unfiltered, cutting through the amplified music. She clutched the note to her chest, trembling with a fear too large for a single arena to contain. A few nearby fans offered whispered reassurance, but their voices were swallowed by the roar and hum of thousands of others. Still, the note beckoned, a silent artifact of desperation, demanding attention. Every eye on stage and in the crowd seemed to sense its significance. The arena now balanced between spectacle and something far more intimate, almost sacred. What would you do if a stranger's pain demanded your attention in front of thousands? Could you pause your world just for a moment? The murmurs grew louder, security edging forward slowly, hands outstretched but hesitant. Some fans shouted at the young woman to calm down, others urged the band to keep playing, and the dissonance swelled like a storm on the horizon. Every heartbeat, every note seemed stretched into eternity. Then, in the hush that followed, a single decision crystallized: chaos or compassion. The pause was almost imperceptible, yet it carried the weight of thousands of eyes and ears. Then Elvis did something nobody expected: a choice that would silence the arena and transform a performance into a moment no one would ever forget. The arena's hum shifted, a low, nervous vibration threading through the 18,000-strong crowd. Security moved cautiously, edging closer to the front, their radios crackling faintly but drowned by the sudden hush that settled like a fog over the floor. Fans pressed forward, some frustrated, others anxious, all caught between excitement and the gravity of a young woman's visible panic. Murmurs spread, a tidal wave of speculation. Why isn't he continuing? Is she okay? The sound of anticipation and unease interlaced. A living organism in itself. Mary Lou Hawkins' voice cracked again, trembling under the intensity. The folded note in her hands seemed almost weightless and impossibly heavy, at once a private plea in a public arena. Security glanced at each other, uncertainty mirrored in their eyes. Their training told them to prioritize order, yet instinct hinted at compassion. The crowd's roar, previously continuous, now fractured into clusters, some cheering to drown fear, others whispering urgent concern. The arena, usually alive with music, became a stage for human tension, every heartbeat magnified, every whisper a drumbeat of suspense. Elvis Presley remained frozen mid gaze locked on Mary Lou. The band, feeling the pause, followed his lead. James Burton's fingers hovered above strings. Ronnie Tutt's drumsticks, poised but unmoving. The lights reflected off rhinestones, now catching only the glimmer of uncertainty. Stagehand Tommy Reeves edged closer, adjusting equipment quietly, as if the mechanics of sound might somehow restore calm, though none could repair the emotional rupture already unfolding. The crowd became a living mirror, their energy oscillating with the uncertainty on stage. Some fans shouted at security to act, others implored them to step back. Emotions ran high: anger, curiosity, worry, coexisting in an uneasy tension. Every pair of eyes seemed to shift repeatedly between Mary Lou and the stage, silently asking, who will choose first, order or humanity? And in that indecision, the arena's collective pulse slowed and tightened, waiting for someone, anyone, to break the standoff. Have you ever felt your world pivot entirely on someone else's decision, knowing a single choice could shift everything? The PA system hummed, faint static in the silence that had replaced the music. Mary Lou's trembling form became the focal point, her fear palpable and contagious. The roar of thousands had evaporated, replaced by the weight of a single human voice. And then, as if answering a silent prayer, the moment stretched toward resolution, and Elvis stepped forward. The arena went dead silent, anticipation thick enough to taste, waiting for a choice that could alter the night forever. And in those first 3 steps toward the front, every soul in Memphis sensed the extraordinary was about to unfold. Elvis crossed the stage in 3 deliberate steps, each one shrinking the distance between the spotlight and the trembling young woman. The band fell silent, fingers hovering above strings and drumsticks frozen mid-air. A soft microphone crackle preceded his voice, calm yet commanding. "Let's take a moment." The crowd of 18,000 held its collective breath, the usual roar replaced by an almost sacred hush, broken only by the faint rustle of scarves and the whispered breath of anticipation. He knelt before Mary Lou Hawkins, his rhinestone jacket glinting in the stage lights, and looked directly into her eyes. "What's your name, sweetheart?" he asked, gentle but firm. She whispered it, barely audible over the tension still lingering in the arena. He listened as she conveyed the fear that had driven her to this moment, leaning in, nodding, responding with gestures of reassurance. Every eye in the arena absorbed the scene, a legend choosing human connection over spectacle, the pause echoing louder than any chord ever could. A single guitar string twanged from James Burton, the sound like a heartbeat punctuating the tension. Elvis's voice softened again, asking questions only a listener truly listens to, drawing her story into the open without judgment. The crowd's energy shifted imperceptibly, awe replacing frustration, empathy replacing irritation. Security relaxed, uncertain how to proceed yet relieved, following the unspoken instruction of the king's attention. Cameras caught every detail, the quivering note, the trembling hands, the clasp of reassurance. Have you ever witnessed someone pause everything they're doing to truly hear another person? Could you recognize that bravery in a stranger? Time seemed suspended as Mary Lou's words spilled softly into the microphone, her fear becoming a bridge that connected every single person present. The arena transformed from a site of entertainment into a shared space of humanity, each face reflecting the silent lesson unfolding before them. For the first time that night, the music did not dominate. Compassion did. Every heartbeat, every whisper, was amplified by the silence of thousands. The entire arena, 18,000 souls, watched a legend choose humanity over performance, and in that instant, something inside them shifted forever. A wave of quiet awe spread through the arena, the kind that comes when thousands witness an act of courage so intimate yet so public that it resonates with every soul. Fans leaned forward, some wiping tears from their eyes, others clasping hands over their mouths. Murmurs of astonishment intertwined with soft cheers, a subtle rhythm of collective empathy. Security relaxed, uncertainty replaced by admiration. Even the band exchanged glances. James Burton's fingers hovered over his guitar strings, now ready to accompany, not command. From the front rows, small acts began to ripple outward. A fan offered a scarf, another a folded jacket, and someone passed a worn autograph book toward Mary Lou Hawkins. Each gesture, spontaneous and heartfelt, became part of the shared story unfolding under the arena lights. The young woman, still trembling, was gently escorted to a quiet corner, yet the crowd's attention never wavered. Their eyes, hearts, and collective breath followed every motion, as if the arena itself had become a guardian of compassion. Elvis gestured to the audience, encouraging applause for her courage. The sound was not just noise, it was validation, a sonic embrace of a human moment. Cameras caught every reaction, the subtle nods of security, the teary smiles of fans, the tremor of voices joining together in solidarity. The Colosseum had shifted from a venue of entertainment into a living organism, breathing in unison with the unspoken lesson of empathy. When have you witnessed strangers coming together to support someone in need, creating a community from a single act of bravery? Could you imagine the power of that ripple in your own life? And then, as if the universe had conspired to make the moment unforgettable, Elvis strummed an impromptu soft verse, a song rarely performed just for her. The arena responded with hushed awe, thousands holding their breath as the music, delicate and human, threaded through the cavernous space. Every eye reflected the rare spectacle, a legend, a fan, a community united by compassion. The energy no longer belonged solely to the performance. It belonged to a shared understanding of humanity and the unspoken promise that kindness could indeed move mountains. And just as the final note faded into silence, the crowd realized they had witnessed something far greater than a concert, a night when empathy itself became legendary. The next morning, Memphis awoke to a story that had already begun to circulate like wildfire. Newspaper headlines read, "Elvis halts concert to comfort fan," capturing the rare blend of fame and humanity that had unfolded the night before. Fans replayed a circulating bootleg tape, listening to the hush that had fallen over 18,000 people, the delicate strum of James Burton's guitar, the subtle click of the microphone, and the quiet words exchanged between Elvis and Mary Lou Hawkins. The Colosseum itself seemed to carry the echo of empathy, immortalized in both sound and memory. Plaques soon appeared in local venues commemorating the night, small markers of a moment that transcended performance. Interviews conducted years later recalled precise details, the glint of rhinestones in stage lights, the trembling hands of a young woman, the scarves and jackets offered spontaneously by strangers. Fans spoke of it as a turning point, a night when the King of Rock became more than a musical icon. He became a living example of compassion in action. The ripples extended far beyond Memphis. Stories of kindness spread through fan letters and radio recounts. Bootleg tapes, pressed into worn cassettes and circulated quietly, preserved every heartbeat of the pause, every whisper of acknowledgement, ensuring the memory endured. Conversations in living rooms, diners, and offices carried fragments of the story, a reminder that even in the midst of spectacle, humanity could take center stage. Have you ever experienced a moment where witnessing someone's empathy changed the way you saw the world? Could one action truly echo across thousands of lives? Some say it changed the way fans would forever see him, not merely as a performer, but as a person capable of prioritizing human connection over fame. The Colosseum, once just a stage, had become a symbol that in the intersection of fear, courage, and compassion, a single act could transform countless hearts and leave an indelible legacy. And as the final echoes of that night faded, the story became more than an event. It became a lesson, whispered and replayed, of what it means to truly choose humanity, even amid the chaos of fame, flashing lights, and the roar of thousands. One moment carved itself into eternity: empathy. Mary Lou Hawkins' shout a single cry of desperation had transformed 18,000 people into witnesses, participants, and silent supporters. Elvis Presley, in choosing to stop, kneel, and listen, demonstrated a lesson larger than any stage: bigger than any applause. Compassion, not performance, had become the true crescendo of the evening. The Colosseum, once alive with music and spectacle, now held a quieter, richer energy. Fans left with stories to tell, press clippings to save, and the memory of a king who prioritized humanity over routine. Conversations echoed in living rooms across Memphis, reflections on courage, attention, and the power of acknowledgement. This night reminded everyone present that connection, even fleeting, can eclipse grandeur, creating bonds that linger long after the spotlight fades. In your own life, how often do you pause to truly listen when someone calls for help? Could a single act of attention change the course of a moment or a lifetime? The moral was clear. The greatest applause is reserved not for the flawless performance, but for the choice to act with empathy when it is hardest. One shout, one pause, one attentive heart had changed the arena, the city, and the legacy of a legend. And as the lights dimmed on Memphis Coliseum that night, the lesson echoed louder than any final note. Humanity, in its simplest form, is unforgettable. Share this story with someone who believes kindness can ripple through thousands. Were you there in spirit when Elvis chose humanity over spectacle? Let the memory of Memphis Coliseum remind you. Compassion can turn a single moment into a legend.